Viewers, for 17 years, yes, more than a decade and a half, you have been fooled by the UPA-Lutyens ecosystem. For 17 years, they told you that a Bihar ki beti was gunned down by the Modi Shah government in Gujarat because she was a Muslim. For 17 years, you were told she was innocent and had no links with any terror groups, let alone the Lashkar-e-Taiba. For 17 years, India's national security was politicized to give character certificates to Ishrat and her accomplices to appease a vote bank. For 17 years, patriots were vilified and terrorists were sympathized with. Today, the mask of deceit, diversion, dialectics, political appeasement and compromise with national security has fallen, viewers, spectacularly fallen off the face of this UPA-Lutyens consensus. A CBI court has ruled that Ishrat Jahan was a terrorist. The ruling exposes the deep-seated cover-up attempted by the UPA-Lutyens consensus to villainize the BJP, the NDA, the right wing, and arguably tarnish the Prime Minister with the brush of Islamophobia. Now, viewers, I want you for 30 seconds to imagine the consequences. Imagine if, in the face of this pushback, Tukaram Omle had not caught Ajmal Kasab alive. Viewers, today we would have been told that Ajmal Kasab was a scapegoat, was an ordinary, innocent 17-year-old who had strayed across the border and ended up in the gateway of India to look at and marvel at the British creation and perhaps even check into the Taj Hotel there. Luckily, viewers, he was caught alive because at that time, the mood was such, the game plan was such, that anyone who even hinted at the fact that there might be something called Islamist terror would have been called a Sanghi. Well, the truth has now surfaced. The ruling now validates the proof that was sought to be buried by the UPA-Lutyens ecosystem. Ishrat Jahan was a terrorist, viewers. The court has ruled the UPA-Lutyens ignored proof after proof. Let me first take you through some of this. First, MHA affidavit in 2009. It's in my hands, viewers. Ishrat was actively associated with the Lashkar-e-Taiba. That's what the MHA affidavit said. Now, viewers, that affidavit was changed within months to actually exclude any references to Ishrat Jahan being linked to the Lashkar-e-Taiba. All was done at the behest, according to RVS Money, an insider, a whistleblower, at the behest of no less than the Union Home Minister at that time, Mr. P. Chidambaram. The other big proof, in 2004, after the encounter, Lashkar-e-Taiba linked website named Ishrat as its soldier in the Ghazwa Times, which is the Lashkar-e-Taiba's own mouthpiece. In 2004, Ishrat was a Lashkar-e-Taiba operative. Mind you, viewers, the third proof that seemingly disappeared, David Headley, one of the key masterminds of the 26/11 attack, said that he was told, NIA, that Ishrat was a Lashkar-e-Taiba operative. That testimony disregarded. FBI Headley interrogation report also quotes Headley having confessed to the fact that Ishrat was a suicide bomber, viewers. The fifth proof, the legal attaché to the US Embassy sent a report to the IB saying Ishrat was a female suicide bomber. And that happened within months, viewers, of this encounter. Another proof, IB chief Asif Ibrahim wrote to the then Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, Home Minister Sushil Shinde. In the letter he said CBI had enough evidence to prove Ishrat Jahan was a Lashkar-e-Taiba suicide bomber. Now viewers, after the verdict, Times Now has exposed the 5 cover-ups that leave questions to be asked of the UPA, in particular, the Lutyens consensus in general. Today, viewers, the question is, should these individuals be probed for their role in compromising national security? Yes, MHA deliberately deleted Ishrat's Lashkar-e-Taiba link. The U-turn was done within 2 months in 2009. That's the document, viewers. That's the proof. It's on your screen. That's the proof of cover-up number 1. Let's have a look at cover-up number 2. Very, very important. Chidambaram approved the affidavit. Chidambaram signed off on the revised affidavit. Who told us this, viewers? This was confessed to not just by RVS Mani, but also G.K. Pillai, the Home Secretary at that time, in an interview to Times Now. Cover-up 3. Then IB chief contradicted CBI on the Ishrat LET link. Then IB chief wrote a letter to Manmohan Singh and Shinde. Where was that letter hidden? Which drawer of the dirty tricks department of the UPA was that hidden, viewers? The letter said proof existed that Ishrat was a Lashkar-e-Taiba bomber, suicide bomber no less. Let's look at cover-up 4, viewers. Let's look at cover-up 4. SIT head Verma managed probe. The then IB chief claimed UPA pressured SIT team probing the Ishrat case. SIT team at that time was led by Verma. Was allegedly told to fix the Ishrat probe. I'm not saying it, viewers. One of his own teammates came out and said it. And the 5th, the US legal attache's letter was buried. Why? For what reason? By whom? To what end? These are fundamental questions, and I want to open this up tonight because, viewers, I believe that this joke on national security has gone on too long, far too long. And these individuals need to be probed for these machinations. Let me bring in Dr. Anand Ranganathan first. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi is also with us, Member of Parliament, National Spokesperson of the BJP. We also have with us Sanjay Gupta, Shiv Sena supporter. The Shiv Sena today that called for action against Chidambaram is in alliance with the Congress and the NCP that even today maintains that Ishrat Jahan was an innocent young lady going about her life. Now, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, what strikes you first about the judgment and about what we have been told for 17 years?
Yes, good evening, Rahul. You know, the Ishrat Jahan case is a textbook case study on 2 counts. One, the macabre lengths to which the ruling dispensation can coerce and control our intelligence and investigative agencies. And 2, the power of compromised NGOs and the media in setting a narrative. Let me explain very briefly. Rahul, we are talking here of a case that occurred in the BSM era. BSM and ASM being before social media and after social media. After the 2004 encounter wherein Ishrat and 3 of her accomplices were killed, there was provided enough proof that it was a real encounter and not a fake one, as alleged by some powerful lobbyists and conduits of the Congress masquerading as NGO and human rights activists. The UPA went by their accession and instructed the agencies under its command to make it out as a fake encounter. This despite the fact that the IB chief, Asif Ibrahim, I am only stating the name and not because, you know, we live in a cynical world. If I were to say Anand Ishwar, people would say I am a Sanghi. Asif Ibrahim told Manmohan Singh that the Bureau has proof that Ishrat Jahan was part of the LeT ISI module planning to assassinate Modi and Advani in 2004. despite the fact that David Coleman Headley, an accused in the 26/11 terror attacks, had pointed out to the FBI that Ishrat was an LET operative and a suicide bomber, despite the fact that IB Special Director Rajendra Kumar said on record that he was offered allurements to give false evidence for implicating Narendra Modi in the Ishrat Jahan encounter case. But the Congress ignored all this to such an extent that Chidambaram even dared to amend and edit the MHA affidavit on Ishrat Jahan filed in the court. This is the extent to which the Congress was willing to go to implicate Modi. This is the extent. Now to point number 2 very briefly, Rahul. As I said, this event happened in BSM. And the years when the media and the fake feeding on Congress crumbs activists were ruling the roost. There was no fact check, no cross check, no one to challenge them, and their single point agenda was to target Modi. Where are all these activists and officers and journalists now? All of them without exception, I repeat without exception, have been severely reprimanded by the Supreme Court. All of them. Rahul, please give me 30 seconds. Remember how, as you said, the Congress blamed the RSS for the 26/11 terror attack? Kasab had been ordered by his handler to wear the kalawa, the sacred Hindu thread. Had Kasab not been caught alive through the supreme sacrifice of Constable Omble, it is beyond doubt that the Congress would have fortified its RSS 26/11 theory. Ishrat Jahan case was supposed to go along the same lines. So have we learnt any lessons? The tragedy, Rahul, is that even though we are now living in an ASM era, the investigative and intelligence agencies remain under the thumb of the ruling dispensation. You domesticate a parrot and it finds its favorite shoulder. The more things change, the more they remain the same.
Well, I want to bring in Colonel RSN. Colonel RSN, I owe you a debt of gratitude, sir. I will take you back to another newsroom, another studio. I will take you back, sir, 6 years in time when the two of us sat down on national TV and exposed the cover-up in the Ishrat case. And I will take you back to those attacks that we suffered at the hands of a alleged liberal lobby. RVS Mani will also remember those days when he was with us on air, recounting the episodes that he remembers when he turned a whistleblower because his conscience was weighing too heavy on him. Colonel RSN, you were called a bigot, a person who had a problem against Muslims in general, because you dared to take on the narrative of that time. I want you as a patriot, sir, and you have remained true to your cause, to tell our viewers what went through your mind when you were challenged and what goes through your mind today, Colonel RSN.
No, firstly, I was very clear right from the day one, and that is why, you have been calling me on your television, shows, because I carry some credibility. If that wouldn't have been the case, I would have evaporated by now. But the fact of the matter is, take your mind back to 2004. Yes, the politicians sitting here in Lutyens Delhi, who are close to Dawood, and by extension they are close to the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and by extension to the ISI, they had planned the assassination of Modi through a suicide bomber called Ishrat Jahan. And when that failed, then they embarked on this plan of 26/11. And thank God Ajmal Kasab was caught. And when that did not work, then again they revived this case of Ishrat Jahan to fix him politically. Mr. Modi politically, and which judge, who was posted where, I don't want to go into that. But after that, 2013, I was present in Gandhi Maidan, Patna, another assassination attempt by another suicide bomber. Well, it was not successful. And then 2014 elections, remember 22 NGOs, 22 or 23 NGOs in Varanasi. So there is a whole series of this collusion with Pakistan. And when an Indian politician he goes to Pakistan and says that help us to remove Modi, you think tell me how can Pakistan help except by way of assassination? It was an open invitation. Otherwise, you tell me. And the ISI has a history of political assassinations. Benazir Bhutto is one example. There are several others. So we had come to a pass, and I hope, and still we haven't got over it, that will Pakistan decide Which will Pakistan decide who will be the Prime Minister of this country? And between 2004 and 2008, you remember there was a series, at least 24 big bomb blasts all over the country.
I remember.
This was all, and sorry to say, sir, it was happening direct under the leadership of Sardarji. Why do you absolve that man? Sardarji, under Sardarji, the CBI was pitted against Intelligence Bureau, and at that time I had said that if I was the IB chief, my officer would have reported to the CBI over his dead body, over my dead body.
I remember that.
I had said that, and all this was happening under Sardarji. All this was happening under Sardarji. You have given too much of latitude, too much of honor, and too much of benefit of doubt to Sardarji. And you don't give benefit of doubt to your own intelligence bureau.
Well, this is a very valid point. And this is a man, Colonel RSN, who has served in the intelligence agencies. Now I want to bring in Chetan Singh, who is smiling, and Etihasham Hashmi. Mr. Hashmi, first to you. Colonel RSN says, China के साथ MOU, Pakistan के साथ collusion. What's going on under the UPA? Batla House was described as a fake encounter. This lady was given a clean chit, called an innocent young lady. I want to ask you, sir, do you believe today the UPA should be probed? Hashmi Saab.
देखिए, जो भी स्पोक्स पर्सन हैं जिन्होंने ये बात कही, उनको मैं एक बात बताना चाहूँगा कि फेक इनकाउंटर में और अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल इनकाउंटर में काफ़ी फ़र्क होता है. मैं एक लॉयर की हैसियत से यहाँ पे बात करूँगा. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया ने गाइडलाइंस दी हैं कि इनकाउंटर अगर होता भी है तो वो किस कंडीशन में होगा. आप भी इस बात को मानेंगे कि ये केस इशरत जहां का केस हो या और भी जो इलीगल या अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल इनकाउंटर के केसेस हैं, उसमें प्रॉपर गाइडलाइंस फॉलो नहीं की गई. आप जो सेशन कोर्ट ने, स्पेशल कोर्ट ने एक ऑर्डर पास किया है, आप उसका पैरा 11 एक बार पढ़िए राहुल जी. और जितने भी पैनलिस्ट यहाँ पे बैठे हैं उनसे भी रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा मैं कि पैरा 11 पढ़िए. स्पेशल पब्लिक प्रोसिक्यूटर हु वाज अपीयरिंग फॉर सेंट्रल ब्यूरो ऑफ इन्वेस्टिगेशन स्पेसिफिकली रिक्वेस्टेड द कोर्ट that kindly allow us to have the sanction for prosecution, and this case is fit for granting punishment to all the accused. Have you seen para 11?
Hashmi Saab, मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछता हूँ. Have you seen the statement of Sharad Pawar, NCP chief?
And second,
मेरी बात सुनिए सर, मेरी बात सुनिए. Have you seen these? See. One minute. Let me read it out.
राहुल जी, शरद पवार.
नहीं, मेरी बात सुनिए सर, प्लीज. देखिए, मैंने आपकी बात सुनी, अब आप मेरी भी बात सुनिए. Can you please listen to me, sir? Let us be civilized. I heard you out. Now let me read out. And pay attention.
I am learning from you.
Pay attention, Chetan Singh. Pay attention. Sharad Pawar said the incident involving a girl named Ishrat has become famous across the country. You must have read about it. What was her mistake? She must have gone to Ahmedabad for some work. The information got was that 3 of them were arrested, and the next day the 3 of them were shot on the highway. You people must have seen the picture of 3 dead bodies lying on the road. How does an innocent college girl going become a terrorist? Sharad Pawar said this, sir. Said this years back. Tej Pratap Yadav, RJD, I agree with Nitish Kumar when he says Ishrat is the daughter of Bihar. Digvijay Singh says this is being done to shield Amit Shah and to protect officers close to Modi who are behind the fake encounter. And what was he referring to? The fact that Chidambaram was being targeted. Today, Majid Memon says observations made by the judge is unreasonable and strange. Muhammad Salim says, was judge scared or is he looking at post-retirement options? Digvijay Singh says this was expected by fear when law protectors are your friends. Sir, Congress party is in alliance with the NCP. Congress party is in alliance with the left. Shiv Sena is in alliance with both the NCP and the Congress. ये क्या मजाक है? ये क्या मजाक है, Chetan Singh? This is a complete joke. complete joke.
See, Rahul, first and foremost, we have to understand out here that the 19 years old girl is no more with us. Second, we need to understand who killed Ishrat Jahan. This is the most important subject matter out here, that who killed Ishrat Jahan.
With us.
See, we
One
have
minute.
She is not with us.
Sir, बोलने दीजिए इनको.
Look, Colonel.
बोलने दीजिए,
Is this the way? Is this a disciplined way to hold a debate? Colonel, are you going to talk like this?
Chetan Singh, respond.
You must behave. You must behave. Please do not behave in this manner. You're not a rogue. You are an army officer. Please,
Chetan Singh, do you believe the courts or you don't believe the courts? One minute, gentlemen, please. I'll have to lower your faders. I'm stepping in here. 1 minute. 1 minute. Chetan Singh, direct your responses to me, not to anyone else. I will handle interference, etc. I've asked you a very simple question. Are you still going to doubt the courts, suggesting that there is no evidence otherwise that does not go to show that Ishrat Jahan was a terrorist? Do you agree with the court or do you not agree with the court? Simple, direct question to you.
Look, Rahul. Okay, your question is direct. The direct answer to this question is that we have to respect the decision come from the court. But no decision is absolute. Why I am saying so? Because we have got apex court too. The CBI will certainly going to go down to the higher courts. They're going to challenge it. Look, the charge sheet was filed in 2013. In 2017, Supreme Court came up with some kind of a decision on the investigating officers. So therefore, we have to wait and watch right now at this given point of time.
So
should
you're
not
saying
relate this
that
with
this particular judgment needs to be questioned. Ishrat Jahan was innocent. Okay, now 1 minute. Chetan Singh, let me bring in Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi. But before I bring in Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, viewers just think about this. This is a Congress sympathizer. This is an individual who supports the Congress party. And let me tell you, viewers know less than the sovereign government of the United States had said that Ishrat Jahan was a terrorist, and she told India's IB chief, and this happened in 2010. There was no Modi as Prime Minister, and this was an Obama government.
Look, first,
are you saying, sir, that the Americans were lying?
Rahul, you see,
to fix Modi?
No, Rahul.
Were they lying, sir?
Understand this country has got a law
were
of
they lying?
land.
Were they lying to fix the Gandhis?
Here.
And Dr. Manmohan Singh?
No, I am not.
What are you saying?
First and foremost,
you are sounding senseless, sir.
We should not pass on any judgment here on a television.
I am not passing any judgment. The judgment was passed by the legal attaché to the US Embassy. The judgment was passed, sir, by Mr. Headley. The judgment was passed by the IB chief.
The complainant and the CBI is going to go up.
You know much more.
Why are you?
Your government, sir, for 20.
Why are you?
Sir, your government for 17 years. Your government for 17 years misled and misled. I want to bring in Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi. Dr. Trivedi, respond. ये तो हम शुक्र है सर कि अजमल अमीर कसब was found alive.
Very pathetic when Chetan Singh has used the word that the 19-year-old girl is not with us. This Ishrat Jahan case has become a very peculiar, unique and obnoxious case in the entire history of investigation of India for 3 accounts. Number 1, there is an incident in which there is an event of encounter of a terrorist. For few days, there is no reaction. The moment they came to know that they were going to kill Modi, suddenly there is a sympathy. Okay, no problem. Can you quote any other case in which the investigating agencies were going in one direction and had taken a 180-degree U-turn? No, sir, only these so-called Hindu terror-related cases. Third, the only case in the entire history of India in which the IB chief was saying that Ishrat Jahan is terrorist, and again IB chief was saying that Ishrat Jahan is terrorist. CBI was the first saying she is terrorist and taken a U-turn that she is not terrorist. 2 agencies of the same government are saying a diametrically opposite view. Peculiar case. And the third case, the Ishrat Jahan case, the government of India, the Home Ministry has changed the affidavit in the Supreme Court.
Let me ask.
Can you quote another case in which the government has totally changed the affidavit? And
RVS money is here with us.
We ask for files on
Dr. Trivedi, RVS money is here with us. RVS money.
Of what a logical legal case was.
RVS money
will be the knowing better that how the file got missing, and it was only just a note and
उनसे पूछते हैं
चिदम्बरम was there.
डॉक्टर साहब उनसे पूछते हैं आरवीएस मनी हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं उनसे पूछते हैं
बताइए पूरी रिपोर्ट प्रस्तुत की थी
आरवीएस जी आप हमारे साथ हैं यू आर विथ अस I know you have given up a private function to be with us. I am very honored and grateful. I want to ask you, sir, Ishrat Jahan, you wrote with your own hands, was a Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorist. How did you come to this conclusion? You were at that time a member, a bureaucrat in the MHA reporting to Mr. P. Chidambaram. After that, Mr. P. Chidambaram, you say himself changed your affidavit. Why, sir? Tell us.
Let us get it very clear. The first affidavit was based on all inputs and evidences, including the Gazwa Times declaration that she was a Fidain, and later on retracting the same in 2009. All these were very solidly. Phone records, intercepts, everything were there. CDRs were there. Where all she had gone, I have detailed it in the first affidavit. Where she had purchased the arms, where a number, more importantly, two more persons, Amjad Rana and Zishan Zohar, were Pakistanis living, having entered India illegally. These are all facts. If she was an honest 19-year-old girl, what was she doing with a Pakistani, two Pakistanis in the same car who are illegally staying in India? Pakistanis don't come to sell fruits here. They come on ISI's agenda. So to that extent, if anybody is calling Ishrat Jahan is a honest 19-year-old girl, I have my serious reservations about his integrity. He is refusing to see facts. That is the first fact. I know the case of the facts of the case. I have said on this channel that it was a crossfire. It was the police did not start the firing. The Gujarat Forensic Lab has also confirmed it. You can check all that. It was a crossfire, and in private defense, the policemen now also have a right not only to mitigate the life and property of the Chief Minister of the state as a constitutional functionary, even the Chief Minister of State as a private individual also, it is their duty to react to any such thing. And thirdly, as a right to private defense also. So these are all very clear facts. So please call it as a crossfire started from some other case. People who don't want to know the facts, or who don't want to see or having known the facts, don't want to accept the facts, or I have only contempt for them. I cannot say anything. Number 3, you talked about Ajmal Kasab being caught alive. I have detailed in my book that not only Ajmal Kasab had been caught alive, even after that there were parleys to exchange Ajmal Kasab, and I was on the firing line. I put the Delhi police report in my book. And only on 7th January 2009, after the botched kidnapping case of myself, on 7th January 2009 only, the Pakistan accepted Ajmal Kasab as their nation, as their national. So even in that time, even after Ajmal Kasab had been caught alive, there were attempts to get him somehow extricated from India. These are all facts I have detailed in my book. It has not been challenged. Every fact is verifiable. So I also wanted to place this. The entire narrative was to deny what ISI was doing into this country. Just to deny. Whether it was ISI or it is any other agency, they were doing in this country had to be denied. One of the channels in the same play on 17th or 18th of Jan 2009, watch headlines today. One of the channel's director now, she had interviewed Imran Khan, and during that she had also declared him as the leader of war on terror. 2 months before the wounds of the 26/11 had not healed, and our own journalist declares them of a prominent channel as a leader of war on terror. This is also a fact which are verifiable. So it is several sections of the Lutyens media, NGOs, all of them are actually peddling a ISI narrative. And same Imran Khan was in cohorts with Hafiz Saeed even then, and later on after 2 years he allied with him to fight an election. So we have no answers, but these are all declared verifiable facts.
Mani Saab,
so
you said you wrote a book. I have read that book.
Apologies for Ishrat Jahan. I think they are also on the same. These are all facts I have quoted. I don't speak without any evidence or without quoting any source.
देखिए, now, RVS Mani
और
I want to
ऊपर
ask
से
you. You
David
see,
Hadley,
viewers,
David
viewers,
Hadley,
tonight
my
we have
final point.
RVS Money,
David Hadley
who has
is,
put his reputation on the line, wrote a book. Has that book been challenged in a court of law? No. Have the claims been challenged in a court of law? No. Because people know, viewers, if they were to sue RVS Money, they would actually end up being exposed themselves. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, you are an author. Writing books is not easy. Is it? Is it, sir? Is it?
Rahul, kudos to Mr. Money. I think he, along with Mr. Ibrahim, were one of the pioneering whistleblowers in this case, if I may use that expression. The fact of the matter is that I'm just shocked by the expressions and the intent of my good friend Chetan here. Leave aside the fact that he heckled and interrupted me. But is he trying to say that Mr. Asif Ibrahim, who was appointed by Mr. Manmohan Singh, no less, was lying when he said that Ishrat Jahan was a terrorist and LET operative? Chetan, it's a simple question, yes or no? Do you have the guts to answer that?
Look, Anand, first and foremost, I respect you the most, but at the same given point of time, the order which has come from the court, it need to be get accepted. But at the same given point of time, CBI has got provisions.
Please answer the question.
To the higher court.
I asked you a simple question, Chetan. You are a lawyer. Don't try and evade the question.
Doesn't stand out here.
The question is, Mr. Asif Ibrahim,
there is no point posing this question out here.
He was appointed by Mr. Manmohan Singh, and in 2013, he told Mr. Manmohan Singh,
this is not a court of Rahul Shivshankar.
This is the court of public opinion. This is the court of public opinion.
Don't interrupt because you're not answering my question.
This is the court of public opinion. Respond to the question.
The point out here is that
you're going round in circles.
Has
no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I won't let this happen because you heckled me.
She is no more with
I'm
us.
asking you a simple yes or no question.
We have to introspect.
Are you mistrusting
at this given point of
the
time?
Okay.
words of Mr. Asif Ibrahim? Then say so.
Other people have got some
Doctor, I'm going to come back to this. 1 minute, Chetan Singh. 1 minute. Viewers, did you notice on 3 occasions now, Doctor, on 3 occasions, Chetan Singh, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, on 3 occasions, I'm going to be taking a very quick break. I'll come right back to the panel. On 3 occasions, Chetan Singh has said this was an innocent 19-year-old girl. She was gunned down. We need to know the truth. Now, let me remind this gentleman, Chetan Singh, who's a political analyst and a lawyer. Afzal Guru, Burhan, Yaqub, all these people have been eulogized by the likes of Chetan Singh and others as sons of Kashmir, etc., etc. Out of these 3, at least one was a teenager. Burhan Wani, the father of Islamist terror in the valley. What has age got to do with this? What has age got to do with this, Sai Deepak? You're an advocate. I'm going to be coming out to you. I want you to today tell us and our viewers, in precisely 2 minutes, I'm coming out to you. What has age got to do with this? What is your point of view? And do you think a counter probe against these individuals who covered up is legit? I'm coming right back. Viewers, before the break, we were being told by the apologists for the UPA, for the Congress and the left Lutyens ecosystem that the court has made a mistake, that Ishrat Jahan was a mere 19-year-old, a victim of bigotry. This same ecosystem, Sai Deepak tells us that Afzal was a victim of a judicial execution ordered by the Supreme Court, that Burhan Wani, the son of her soil, was the son of a mathematics teacher or some such conflation, that Yaqub was a victim of circumstances. Why is this constant narrative so apologetic, so sympathetic of terrorists? And why does it only come from one spectrum of our polity? Sai Deepak.
So I think to all these sympathizers, credit must be given to them for the fact that they are extremely consistent in their unimaginative defense of all these terrorists. Age, family background, circumstances. Therefore, all terrorists are never responsible for their actions and everybody else must be responsible for their acts of terror. That's effectively the narrative that has been built over the years. And I completely agree with Dr. Ranganathan that had it not been for the valiant acts of Tukaram Omble, I don't think they would have actually said that Ajmal Kasab was a misled youth who had just stumbled into the borders of India. In fact, they would have branded him a Hindu terrorist, and that's precisely why he was dressed in a certain fashion with a kalaba on his wrist. Therefore, we would have seen the explosion of the Hindu terror narrative, which was put together by the best of brains under the previous dispensation. I don't see the point in naming people, but the fact remains that it's a matter of public record as to who coined the term and why. Second, age, I'm sorry to say, has no legal validity here. People who profess constitutional patriotism must at the very least respect the black letter of the law. They must at least locate the defense which says that because this person's over 17 or 18 but is under 25 or 30, you must give them a certain degree of leniency when they commit acts of terror, and when they clearly are party to actually plots which are meant to kill national leaders or people of national stature. Three, I think we are being told that we must take a different position merely because there could be certain affiliations which are uncomfortable and politically incorrect, and therefore we must pixelate those aspects of these acts with the color green as much as possible and turn a blind eye as much as possible. That seems to be the consistent narrative that is being peddled all across the board. I'm sorry to say that people are allowed to play politics when it comes to national security. I can completely understand people having disagreements when it comes to ideology, political affiliations, whatever it may be. But when national security is bartered in return for political benefits, I'm sorry to say a certain red line is crossed. And whether it's an individual or an organization or a political organization for that matter, it must be branded an anti-national organization. And I would hope that this government, the current central government, actually takes steps to prosecute those people, including journalists and terror sympathizers sitting in academia or elsewhere, for all the lies that they peddled, because as long as there is no reparation, so to speak, a legal reparation, so to speak, this nonsense will continue, and we will continue to see this being spewed out from every possible outlet. Therefore, I would suggest that if the government is serious about this, as opposed to merely resting on the judgment of this court where all these people have been discharged, all these honest officers have been discharged, they must take it to the logical conclusion and effectively go after people legally who peddled lies for 19 years. They must do so, and they must walk the talk and show the courage of their conviction to go after these people, unless and until an example is made out of them, an example is made out of these people to ensure that there is repercussion and there is some kind of a retaliation for this kind of nonsense. We will continue to see national security being bartered at the altar of petty politics. I'm sorry to say it's no more petty politics. It's dangerous, malicious politics, where
Dr.
we see
Trivedi,
internal sympathizers shaking hand in glove with Pakistanis.
Dr. Trivedi, please listen today to both RVS Mani, Colonel RSN, Dr. Ranganathan, Sai Deepak, and make an example of these individuals. We are all calling upon you to order a probe into this cover-up, frame cases, charges, whatever you want to, and let's bring these people to account who bartered national security at the altar of political compulsion, convenience, and interest. Dr. Trivedi.
The question raised by you and the various people is definitely very significant. It is after our government came, as I told in my previous statement, that we asked for the file, the basis on which the Home Ministry has totally changed its affidavit. The file was missing. Another example, Jamaat-ud-Dawa in its website was mentioning Ishrat Jahan as one of their operative. And suddenly they withdrew her name, and at the same time the affidavit of the government of India was changed. So one can be very astonished about the synchronity of the event. There Jamaat-ud-Dawa withdrawing the name, and here the affidavit is changing. And the thing is not limited to this. The problem is,
on one hand, probe order
government itself said that 2611 was done by Hafiz Saeed.
This is important. File the case.
Sir, मैं इसी पे तो आ रहा हूँ, बात तो सुनिए. 2611 हाफिज सईद ने कराया, 2611 आरएसएस ने कराया. प्रोब तो इस पर भी होनी चाहिए. आपका समझौता एक्सप्रेस, टोटल यू टर्न विदाउट एनी एफिडेविट.
ट्रू.
प्रोब तो इस पर भी होनी चाहिए. Sadhvi Pragya Singh, for 8 years there was no charges frame in the court.
True.
No charge sheet in the court. क्या इस पे प्रोब नहीं होनी चाहिए? मेरे विचार से लीगल प्रोब के साथ साथ जो मॉरल और पॉलिटिकल प्रोब है उसका भी जवाब देना चाहिए। अभी जो कह रहे थे सेशंस कोर्ट, मेट्रोपॉलिटन कोर्ट का जजमेंट, ये बताइए सीबीआई ने फोरेंसिक की रिपोर्ट ही नहीं सबमिट की, अब क्या कहा जाए इसके बारे में? यानी गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से केस किया जा रहा है, फोरेंसिक रिपोर्ट के बगैर जजमेंट भी हो जा रहा है, और ये इन्फर कर लिया जा रहा है कि दिस वाज अ फेक इनकाउंटर, और गवर्नमेंट का चेंज एफिडेविट जिसका कोई बेस अवेलेबल नहीं है। जो आपने फाइनली बात कही थी कि अगर किसी में दम है, हैसियत है, तो आरवीएस मनी के ऊपर कोर्ट केस करे, दूध का दूध पानी का पानी हो जाएगा। और चेतन सिंह जी से मैं कहना चाहूंगा, वो एक अच्छे व्यक्ति थे भाई, गलती हो जाने के बाद उसको एक्सेप्ट करके साइड हो जाना ज्यादा बेटर है, बजाय कि आप उसको रिएम्फसाइज करें। और यही कर करके कांग्रेस ने अपने को कहां तक पहुंचाया। और ये फाइनली वन सेंटेंस, सर इफ द प्रोब इज टू बी आंसर्ड, तो मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा, इशरत बिहार की बेटी है, अफजल हालात का मरा है, याकूब की जुडिशियल किलिंग है, ओसामा जी है, हाफिज साहब है, बुरहान वानी भटका जवान है, भारत तेरे टुकड़े होंगे इंशाल्लाह कहने वाले भटके जवान है। ये सब प्रोब का नहीं, ये सब पर्जिंग के इंटाइटल्ड है। पर्ज विद द सिस्टम। प्रोब तो इनको थोड़ा सही करेगी, एंड आई थिंक दिस पर्जिंग शुड बी डन बाय द पीपल ऑफ इंडिया, which has been partially done.
Dr. Ranganathan wants to come in. Yes, very quickly before I bring in Chetan Singh, and also I want to bring in Sanjay Gupta, Shiv Sena sympathizer. Yes, Doctor.
यस सुधांशु जी, डॉक्टर साहब आप जानते हैं मैं आपकी बहुत, आपके विचारों की बहुत कद्र करता हूं, लेकिन यहाँ पे मैं आपको कहूँगा कि यू आर ड्रेंच्ड इन हिपोक्रेसी, क्योंकि मैं आपको 3 एग्जाम्पल दूंगा। जिसने कहा था कि ये फेक एनकाउंटर है और इशरत जहान बिहार की बेटी है, उसके साथ आज आपने गवर्नमेंट बनाई हुई है। जिसने एफिडेविट चेंज किया 7 साल से, ही इज इवेडिंग जेल। और तीसरी सबसे जरूरी बात, जो आप कहते हैं कि पीएफआई टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, 7 साल से आप इंचार्ज हैं, आपने उन्हें बैन किया नहीं किया है। तो प्लीज, आप पॉलिटिक्स अपनी जगह है, और जो देश को हार्म करते हैं, और पीपल लाइक कर्नल RSN सिंह जो एक्सपोज करते हैं, पीपल लाइक मिस्टर मनी जो एक्सपोज करते हैं, उनके हाथ क्या आया? व्हाट हैव दे गॉट?
Colonel RSN Singh. Important questions being asked. Colonel RSN
one
Singh.
sentence to Anand Ranganathan.
सर देखिए,
या एक जवाब दीजिएगा।
When the file is missing, it is very difficult to prove in the court.
अच्छा एक मिनट,
At the
डॉक्टर
most,
त्रिवेदी
you can have the action
जवाब
over
देना
those
चाह
who are
रहे।
responsible for keeping the custody of the file.
Okay, so a probe has been ordered. We are going to now await outcomes, and there will be action. Okay, Colonel RSN, very quickly before I bring in the others.
No, 1 minute. I am concerned about the political conspiracy part of it. When 26/11 took place, the entire war room of India, that is that war room of MHA was in Pakistan at that time when this attack was going on.
Yes.
Do you know that?
I remember.
They were taken to Murray.
Yeah.
They were having beer there. And sir, let me tell you, the Home Secretary was Madhukar Gupta that time. And in your Delhi, Indian Women Press Corps, wherever you have their building, Shah Mahmood Qureshi was the foreign minister then as well. When this attack was going on, somebody came, he whispered in his ears, and then he flew back by a special aircraft to Pakistan. That is what should be probed. And Rajendra Kumar, probably he had got a whiff of it, of what was going to happen. He had come back while the entire war room stayed there, sir. I am only interested in the political conspiracy part of it.
Very important.
And in the third front, and against proxy war, all this law and order, ये जो ये कानून की जो हवाला दे रहे ना, जो थर्ड फ्रंट की बात कर रहे हैं, प्रॉक्सी वॉर की बात कर रहे हैं, उसमें ये लॉ एंड ऑर्डर वाला ये यार्डस्टिक नहीं चलता है सर। देखते गोली मारो, अगर नहीं सरेंडर करता है तो देखते गोली मारो। दिस इज द थर्ड फ्रंट व्हिच द CDS एंड द आर्मी चीफ इज टॉकिंग अबाउट।
Okay.
क्या बात आप कर रहे हैं?
Well, let me bring in very important. You know, we are talking about parties bartering national security, as Sai Deepak had said, at the altar of political convenience. And I want to bring in Sanjay Gupta, Shiv Sena supporter. क्या आपकी भी पार्टी सर बार्टर करेगी नेशनल सिक्योरिटी को? सर, अब आपके संजय राउत साहब जो आज चुप बैठे हैं, उन्होंने कुछ साल पहले कहा, क्या कहा उन्होंने, कि पवार पे, शरद पवार पे सेडिशन का केस लगना चाहिए, चिदम्बरम पे लगना चाहिए, उन्होंने कहा चिदम्बरम पे। उस वक्त वो होम मंत्री थे चिदम्बरम साहब। आज संजय राउत कांग्रेस का हाथ पकड़ के बैठे हुए हैं और उनको अब चिदम्बरम में खूबियां दिखती हैं, बुराइयां नहीं दिखती। ये क्या चक्कर है सर, कुछ समझाएंगे? आप उन पार्टी के साथ लगे हुए हैं, एनसीपी, जिन्होंने बोला कि 26/11 एक आरएसएस साजिश थी। ये क्या है शिवसेना, क्या हो गया इनको?
देखिए, आप हर पॉलिटिकल पार्टी की अपनी विचारधारा हो सकती है। सरकार बनाना नंबर का काम है, इससे किसी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी की विचारधारा नहीं बदलती।
नहीं तो आप किसी से भी नंबर बना के सरकार बनाएंगे।
कौन है कौन नहीं है?
नहीं, जिसको आप जेल भेजना चाह रहे थे सेडिशन केस में, वो आपके साथ
से होता आ रहा है,
आपके साथ गले मिले हुए।
90 से होता आ रहा है। क्या बीजेपी ने पीडीपी के साथ सरकार नहीं बनाई क्या इस चीज से? नहीं, देखिए, सरकार
तोड़ी भी तो,
आप किसी पार्टी को
तोड़ी भी तो सरकार उन्होंने, जब भारी पड़ गया समझौता तो तोड़ दी।
चलाने के बाद 4 साल
आप कब तोड़ेंगे?
4 साल चलाने के बाद तोड़
देश की अस्मिता आपके लिए सर कुछ नहीं है क्या? पीडीपी के साथ उन्होंने एंगेजमेंट तोड़ दी और आर्टिकल 370 एब्रोगेट किया।
इसको नहीं जोड़ सकते आप।
आपसे मैं सवाल पूछ रहा हूं।
4 साल सरकार चलाई भी थी उन्होंने इस बात के साथ।
साई दीपक वांट्स टू कमेंट। सर,
मतलब सरकार
एक समझौते के आधार पे चलाई थी, जब समझौता को तोड़ने लगा पीडीपी तो साफ बात खत्म। आज बाटला हाउस एनकाउंटर
4 साल सरकार चलाई
पे
थी,
वर्डिक्ट है।
4 साल
आज
और 2019
इशरत जहां केस पे वर्डिक्ट है और आप अभी भी सर, आप अभी भी लगे हुए हैं। क्या चक्कर है ये? क्या हो गया शिवसेना को सर, द पार्टी ऑफ बाल ठाकरे?
देखिए, आप इशरत जहां के केस को आप सरकार से क्यों जोड़ रहे हैं? आप इशरत जहां के केस
सर, मैंने थोड़ी बोला था कि सेडिशन केस फाइल करो चिदम्बरम के खिलाफ। मैंने थोड़ी बोला था सर, मैं तो मामूली आदमी हूं।
बता दीजिए,
मैं तो आपकी एमपी संजय राउत की बात कर रहा हूं।
प्रोसिक्यूट करने और शरद पवार के सेडिशन
उन्होंने जोड़ा,
माफी मांगते हैं।
उन्होंने जोड़ा, मैंने नहीं जोड़ा।
साहब ने इशरत जहां केस पर बोला था, मैं वो बोल देता हूं।
उन्होंने जोड़ा, मैंने नहीं जोड़ा सर।
लेकिन जो बाला साहब ने बोला, शिवसेना ने जो बोला था उस वक्त इशरत जहां केस में, मैं वो बता देता हूं, आप सबका दिखा रहे हैं।
बाला साहब
का भी दिखा रहे हैं,
रीढ़ की हड्डी वाले
सलीम का भी दिखा रहे हैं, और ना जाने किसका दिखा रहे हैं। लेकिन बाला साहब ने क्या बोला ये तो नहीं दिखाया आपने।
बाला साहब हैड अ स्पाइन।
नहीं, आप ऐसे कैसे कह सकते हैं?
आप अपनी शिवसेना वाला नया स्पाइन भी दिखाइए।
मतलब
इट विल बी गुड।
क्या चाहते हैं?
एक मिनट, साई दीपक को मैं लेना चाह रहा हूं। साई दीपक साहब बोलिए।
Please just consider this pattern.
मुझसे
One, someone like Colonel Purohit is tortured for years. Sathi Pragya is tortured for years.
मतलब हमें क्या क्रिटिसाइज करने के लिए
And we
बुलाया
have a
आपने? सिर्फ
situation where our scientists are either assassinated or maligned for years. And all of this happens under the same dispensation. Whereas terrorists are given clean green chits, pun intended.
ये आपका
So this is the consistency with which this particular dispensation, previous dispensation has effectively acted, where people who fight for the country and people, the security apparatus who effectively bleed for the country are hounded, tortured and terrorized, whereas terrorists are given sympathizers and intellectual cover fire. And we have all sorts of headlines coming out where it is effectively said that the highest court of the country murdered or assassinated a terrorist. That's the kind of language that was permitted by this consensus.
At least the truth has surfaced today after 17 years. Now, we need individuals who buried this truth to be punished. That's the demand that India is going to make.